NFL free agency is in full swing, and we've
crazy.
seen a lot of wild moves, big names, big moves. It's been awesome to watch.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Rams are right there in it, and there's a couple things that still are on the table for the Rams, including Odell Beckham Jr. and Bobby Wagner. I wonder what's going to happen.
I mean, if they add Bobby Wagner, they're reloading for another Super Bowl run. Not that they're not anyway. I mean, they're bringing back Stafford, they're bringing back Aaron Donald, they're bringing back a lot of the guys that they need. They lost Von Miller, but you bring Bobby Wagner, and all of a sudden you're like, we're not going to miss Von Miller. The other thing they got to worry about is Odell Beckham Jr. They want him back. The Rams management says we want him back.
Yeah.
Beckham says I love it there, but he's also now, as OBJ will do, he flirts with everybody that would look at him, right? He says he wouldn't rule out a reunion with the Browns where it would be Deshaun Watson and OBJ. How fascinating would that be?
That'd be fun to watch.
Amari Cooper.
Right.
What a scene that would be. So the Rams are having a good offseason. They're bringing back their guys.
Right.
If they had Bobby Wagner, it's an A for them if they bring him.
An A. Wow, I like that. Okay, perfect little segue there. Speaking of Deshaun Watson, heading to Cleveland. What a weight lifted off the shoulders in Houston. I know for the Texans fans, they've been waiting for this moment for a really long time. They got so much for Deshaun. Do you feel like they have everything now that they need to maybe not be the worst in the league?
You know, we've talked about this over and over. It was certainly a cloud over the season last year.
Right.
Tyrod Taylor was just a stopgap. Davis Mills, the rookie quarterback, they kind of brought him along slowly.
Yeah.
But they all during last year, they didn't know if Deshaun was going to have criminal charges.
Right.
Was he an asset or was he just purely a liability? They have to cut him and get rid of him. So those questions have been answered. Now they can move forward from the Deshaun Watson era, which he had some success, but he didn't want to be here. And as fans know, if he didn't want to be here, get rid of him. And they did get some good assets for him.
Right.
So now they can turn Deshaun Watson into a liability, into an asset that helps them be better in 2022. And the thing is, for fans and for the coaching and the management, they're not going to get what about Deshaun every single day, which absolutely will on your psyche will bring you down. And when you're 4-13, you don't want to hear any questions, especially about your best player doesn't want to be here. So it should be a breath of fresh air. Addition by subtraction with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. So before we look forward for the Houston Texans, let's look back. Now that we've seen how much Tyreek Hill was traded.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I mean, massive amounts of money. We look back at the DeAndre Hopkins situation in Houston. Does it shed a little bit more light on maybe what the Texans should have gotten?
It reminds us, not that we didn't know it already, but it confirms that what a bozo Bill O'Brien was as a GM. I mean, Tyreek Hill gets 5 draft picks, including a first. DeAndre Hopkins went with a 4th round pick, got back a 2nd, and David Johnson, who was a good player at the time. But compared to what Tyreek Hill got, it's peanuts. And I'm not saying that DeAndre Hopkins was Tyreek Hill, but at the time of that trade, they were comparable.
Right.
He was missing a Super Bowl ring, but look at their Pro Bowl appearances and their productivity. DeAndre Hopkins was the guy in 2020, and they looking back now as the Texans, you're like, we had a much bigger asset than we used, and Bill O'Brien, that's another one on his. Nick Caserio, the GM now, he's still cleaning up that mess because they didn't get enough for their best player.
Oh, they always say hindsight is 20/20. Let's look now at the Atlanta Falcons, who are starting a new era, the Marcus Mariota era, and I'm a University of Oregon alum, so for me to watch Marcus get another chance with a team who has some pretty good weapons for him to use, I know a lot of Duck fans are very much looking forward to it. However, Matt Ryan is gone.
Yeah.
And as you were telling me that they feel like they're going to get punched in the chin, what was this?
I understand as an Oregon Ducks fans are excited about Marcus Mariota. I don't think another bird, the Falcons fans, I don't think they're as excited about the Marcus Mariota era because it feels like we had to get rid of Matt Ryan. But he's an icon. He's probably the greatest player in Falcons history. Right. But we were forced to cut him and take our losses. That's not a rallying cry. We cut our losses, run out the tunnel. GM Terry Fontenot said this week, we're going to take it on the chin this year. And that's not a motto either. Can you see, there's the highlight of the 2022 Falcons. We took one on the chin. That's not a ringing endorsement.
Doesn't sound good for Mariota either.
But Matt Ryan was such a, contractual liability that they had to get rid of him. Well, now they have with Dante Fowler also, they had to cut him and he went to the Cowboys. They've got $60 million in dead money, which means I've got $60 million of debt. I can't use that in this salary cap. Now, 2023, it's going to be better. Their cap will be in great shape. But Fontenot comes out and goes, look, guys, there's no way around it. We're going to take it on the chin this year. So it's a step back to the salary cap, which, as we know in free agency, it's a step back to acquiring talent and being better in 2022. 2023, you might be better, but 2022 is going to be a tough year. And I can just see fans showing up with Band-Aids saying, this, take one on the chin this year because of Matt Ryan.
That's so funny. Let's now move to Washington. The Commanders, they've got a new logo, new uniforms, name, but they're not really making a huge splash in free agency and not a ton of excitement around the franchise. Why do you think that is?
Well, what they had to do, first and foremost, they accomplished. They had to get a starting quarterback in Carson Wentz, which, if you saw Carson Wentz and the Colts needed to win Week 17 at one of the worst teams in the league, Jacksonville, and Carson Wentz absolutely pratfalled. Right. And if you watched HBO's Hard Knocks, they did an in-season Hard Knocks with the Colts.
Right.
You saw the players talking about how he choked, how he cratered under pressure, how we can't have a quarterback that performs that poorly in a big game. And those guys were on camera saying that they're happy to be done with Carson Wentz, but go Commanders, we got our quarterback. It's a
little weird.
That's what they needed to handle, though. They needed, is Taylor Heineke the guy? Do we bring out a draft? Do we draft somebody? Carson Wentz is the guy. So, but we've looked at their odds. Their Super Bowl odds went down after they signed Carson Wentz. The wise guys in Vegas were not impressed. I don't know if the Commander fans are embracing him, but that was priority number one, is to fix the quarterback situation. They think they have it fixed.
All right. Well, that's a good sign for Commanders fans.